Olá, Samantha, bom dia. Tá boa?
Bom dia.
Tudo bem consigo?
Sim, tudo bem? E contigo?
Também. So, Samantha, you've been with the Unschool for a bit over 6 months. So I thought it was a good opportunity to invite you here to the channel and have a conversation, like see what is possible in 6 months if you follow the unschooling approach. Now, can you tell us a little bit about you? So essentially where you're from and what's your native language and what other languages you know and at what level?
Okay. Uh, I'm from the US and I've been here a couple of years. I speak Mandarin, speak, read, and write Mandarin, which is the main language that I've studied in my life. But I've also had brief periods of time where I've studied Italian, but very long ago, very brief, Hebrew, French, and German, and a
So,
little bit of Spanish.
okay, so you got a bit of everything. So not enough Spanish to get in the way of your Portuguese.
Not at all.
Great. One of the few Americans. Okay, great. So the Mandarin is certainly gives you a different exposure to language learning, which not every, let's say, American, North American will have. And I think it's part of the secret of why you can listen to Portuguese so well. Number one struggle people come to me with, and that's why I always love to do what I call phonetic dictations. So are you up for doing one now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll say four sentences that I have here, and then you just write. Of course, this always depends on the level of the student. So if you're very beginner, you would just write the sounds. What I want is to get the sounds that he can hear. So if you cannot identify words or don't remember the spelling, the sounds is fine. If you can actually, oh, I know this word is spelled like this, even though I hear something else, then it's also fine, right? First thing that comes. So I have four sentences and I'll read each 3 times. Okay? Okay, number one. Onde é que estás agora? Onde é que estás agora? Onde é que estás agora? Okay. Número dois. Queria um copo d'água, pode ser? Queria um copo d'água, pode ser? Queria um copo d'água, pode ser? Okay. Número três.
Let me make it the letters bigger so I can actually see them myself.
Okay.
Okay, it's not done. Okay, ready. Pronto.
Okay. Número três. Trying to read my handwriting. Just a moment. Mas olha, acho que ele é sempre assim. Mas olha, acho que ele é sempre assim. I'll say number three one more time, okay?
Okay.
Mas olha, acho que ele é sempre assim.
Mas olha, acho que é sempre assim.
It's okay, we'll look at it together at the end. Now,
Can you say the last word one more time?
I'll say the last bit one more time. Acho que ele é sempre assim. Assim.
Okay.
Número 4. Bora lá à festa dele logo à noite. Bora lá à festa dele logo à noite. bora lá à festa dele logo à noite. One more time, that one. Bora lá à festa dele logo à noite. You good?
Well, one more time would be even better.
The last one?
Uh-huh.
Bora lá à festa dele logo à noite.
Yeah, there's one word I'm not sure what I'm hearing. Okay, done.
Okay. So now I'll take over because I'll try to see if I can write on top of what you, or next to what you wrote. So we had on deck, so you heard that well. We've practiced enough the question words in live chats. On deck. And then you put estás agora. So this estás is actually quite logical what you wrote. Because we, in Portuguese, we tend to write, let me put it this way. You know that we tend to, certainly in the more Lisbon area, we tend to drop the es from the verb estar, right? And that's what I said.
Uh-huh.
The verb estar.
Yeah.
Estás agora. And you put a z, which again is very clever because an s between two vowels will sound like a z. Estás agora, estás agora. It's how I said it. So there's no right or wrong. We're just really sort of checking what is it that how much can you hear? And obviously tons of words, so that's good. This one was really interesting. So I said cria.
Oh, cria or tria. Okay, yes.
Which is similar. And I think if you had taken a moment to think of what you were saying, of course, you know that cria would have, you know the word, and it would have made more sense. So cria copo, and then you put the apostrophe, which is like perfect. Agua, and then
do you have the apostrophe in Portuguese?
No, in old texts you will see it, and maybe in songs for the sake of the rhythm and so, but officially no. But it is perfect in the sense that it shows how an e at the end of a word vanishes, and then it just marries the second word, the following word.
I was only listening to sounds, not translating or trying to figure out what was being said. I see. Interesting.
Yeah. I put this sound le because I know that it's hard to hear the difference between le and ye. And okay, because from an English perspective, how would you phonetically write that sound, right? Unless you remember that in Portuguese is an LH. But let's say if I would read this, I would say mzolia.
Right. That makes sense.
And again, just a reminder. But still, so you put, instead of the you put an e because the a here is me, it's closed, so mazolha. So it's normal to hear an e instead of an a. And you did put it together because I combined it, and I combined it because again we have two vowels and the s sounds like a z. So and I will just combine the word mazolha.
Oh, now I know what you're saying. Maybe. But look.
And am I being formal or informal?
Olhar is the verb, the infinitive. You are being informal. Formal. Informal. Let me think.
Informal. Yeah, if you think of desculpar, that's always the reference.
That's right.
Mas olha, and then acho que ele, so the ele you didn't hear because it's really like ele. And then we combine everything. Acho que ele. And then afterwards you heard it, but then you still missed the e. I mean, again, if you had been looking at the grammar, you would have like, I need a verb.
Yeah. Right.
Still. So I think that he is always like that. So acho que ele é sempre assim. Acho que ele é sempre assim.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. And then what was this one? So this was sort of a reduction we do. So I said, bora lá festa dele logo à noite.
Logo, that's where I never could hear what, I didn't know what that one was.
Which one? The logo?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's when we're talking about time reference, time expressions, it's hard to translate from English. It's never exactly the same thing. Not never, but and it's those things that exposing yourself to native content or paying attention to that if you're living in Portugal really helps. Later at the night, that's what it means. When we say até logo, see you later.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. But this one, so I did not say embora, I said bora,
Uh-huh.
which is what you heard with too many R's, but that's fine.
That's correct.
And then la festa. So embora la is like let's go. The la makes it more of a suggestion. Otherwise, it's an order. But you heard the las, okay? What you didn't hear, or you didn't put it in writing, let's say, because maybe for you from an English perspective is not important, is the la a festa. There was a double A there. And sometimes we even have triple A's, so one after the other, we just combine and make it slightly longer. Ora la festa.
That makes sense.
Can you hear it now?
I can, very clearly.
Okay, and then festa, whatever. And then dil, here you heard, but you just didn't put the E, the final E, because we don't pronounce it. Dil. Mm-hmm. And then log, you heard it the second time. And then it was just that that you didn't hear, which again, grammatically speaking, you would have known if you had taken, if that was the focus of the exercise, you would have noticed that I need a preposition there. But ask me some questions, as you know what my view on asking questions is, because normally when we start learning a language, we know how to, okay, we understand the question, let me now focus on how to answer it. However, if in the beginning you don't have a lot of vocabulary, sentence structure, maybe still a bit basic, and you always want to speak the truth, right, in the beginning, and maybe the truth is more complex. It takes a lot of, let's say, mindset and lowering the ego, as I like to say, to just say the basics, like maybe, like, where are you from? And you want to say, oh, I grew up all over the place, France, US, Argentina and stuff, because my parents were artists and were moving all over. But you cannot say this yet. So it's a super interesting story where you're from, but just say, I'm American, period. Right? So focusing, and you may get nervous and then you freak out and you don't even say the little things you do know. So focusing on the question really helps you leading the conversation to places where you know where you can go. And it gives you listening exposure, which is always handy. And then throwing in some reactions or filler words helps. Of course, this is not something I'm going to do on day one, but in time, I think it's a really good trick. So let's see. I have answer number one. So, está na prateleira de cima, mesmo ao lado do sal. Let's see if you understand the sentence and then try a question.
Something, prateleria, on top of something and right next to the salt.
So really good that you know the mesmo means right next to the salt. Prateleira, do you know what that is?
No.
Remember the Mr. Bean video we watched the other day that he was painting the wall and there was one thing on the wall where the hat was on it?
The clock.
So the clock was on something.
Shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so different than a bookshelf. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if we're talking about bookshelf, or usually we have stand. Right. We call it a stand. Right. So here's just a shelf, which could be in the kitchen or like Mr. Bean's living room. Okay, so
it's on top of the shelf, right next to the salt.
It's not on top of the shelf. I mean, usually things will normally be on top of a shelf. So what's
right, this? But the cima is what I'm looking at.
So the cima means on top,
right,
of the top.
So it's on the shelf, right next to the salt.
Huh? But which shelf? Which shelf?
So it is on the shelf.
Which shelf? The bottom one, the middle one?
Shelf. The top shelf. I see. It's on the top shelf. Okay.
Imagine you go to the supermarket and you're asking where something is. The They may say na prateleira de cima or na prateleira de baixo, and then you know.
Ah, yes.
Okay. Now, what is in the top shelf? We don't know, but you have to come up with something. Could be pepper, could be ketchup. I don't know.
Okay.
But what would be a reasonable question for this?
On deck,
Mhm.
chá preto.
Okay, but that's sounding Chinese. I was just reading some Chinese before we talked, and their lack of verbs. What someone was actually yesterday Tarzan language. I was like, it doesn't apply to Portuguese. We need a verb. You need a verb. So you had chá preto, fine. What's the verb?
Está.
And then?
Onde é que está chá preto? Or do you need the okay. O chá preto.
Okay, and now the whole thing, and then I'll reply.
Onde é que está o chá preto?
Está na prateleira de cima, mesmo ao lado do sal. Okay. And now. Vou para a semana que vem. Antes não posso.
Okay. Next week. I'm going next, or something next week. Before is not possible.
So a question?
Vou para together. I've never seen necessarily, right? But it just means so next week before is not possible.
Yeah.
Or I'm going next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going next week. So, and I put this expression because again, it's something that if you put out on an online translator or so, I don't think it will give you this result. It will give you a more literal translation, but it's quite, at least I speak like this. I'm sure there's more Portuguese that do. We say for the week that comes.
Yeah, we've covered that in the live chat.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So, quando, right? So, quando é que tu vais?
To the doctor.
Oh, to the doctor.
Can I be really mean and say to the nose and throat and ear doctor?
No. Okay. Onto, I mean, I'm trying to remember what that was.
If you remember, if not, just the doctor.
It was something ontologario or something like that.
To say to the doctor.
So to the doctor, para doctor, because implying movement towards, or to see. Can I say to see the doctor?
Yeah, but you're not going to stay at the doctor's. You're just going to go there for a short period of time.
Right. I mean, por doctor.
Okay. So if we have, forget about por. The por doesn't enter. If I say para, I'm going to stay at the doctor's, and I don't have intentions in staying there. So the other preposition with ir, remember which one it is? Let's say you're going to France.
That's an irregular verb.
Yeah, but it's not about the irregular verb. It's that preposition. So it's ir a.
Okay. So tu vais ao doutor.
Okay. And then doutor. So because in English you say doctor, but in Portuguese you say doctor when you talk to the doctor, and you say doutor or senhor doutor or seu doutor if you shorten it even more. But here, do you know what the profession is? Imagine I'm a doctor, then I would be a
medical.
So, well, medica because I'm a woman, but still.
Okay,
normally it's you would say in the masculine, but we in Portuguese we say we go to the doctor. Actually, in English as well. So missing.
Okay. Quando é que tu vais ao médico?
Yeah, but if I say the, because this is telling me I'm going to, but it doesn't say it's not saying I'm going to the doctor.
So, ao médico?
And if it were a female doctor?
A médica.
Which accent?
I think that one.
which doesn't tell me because which way we're looking, it's confusing.
But I don't have a lot of experience with accents.
It's the least common one. It's the grave.
That's the one.
I'll trust you. We were talking about the same.
It is.
Faz ao médica, médica. Now, as minhas primas têm 10 gatos. Show me a reaction.
A sério?
Sim, é sério. Não, não é verdade.
Que giro.
Não, não é verdade. Ok, uma pergunta.
Okay, so as suas primas? Am I being formal?
That's
So,
right.
so as suas primas têm quantos gatos?
Yeah, and I love that you didn't start with a question word, and this shows that instinctively you know that. You've had enough exposure to know that sometimes we start with quantos, sometimes it goes at the end. Asking questions is really flexible in Portuguese, which makes it hard for me to teach and for you guys to learn. So that's why sometimes this sort of exercise helps. Ok. Número 4. Tenho de ir de comboio. Oh, there's no accent here apparently, but I swear I always saw it growing up. But the other day, Prati corrected me and I was like, I don't know. Tenho de ir de comboio. O meu irmão está com o meu carro esta semana.
So, tenho de ir. I have to go. It's a deal. Basically, I have to go. We covered that in a live chat. My brother has my car this week.
Okay, and what is comboio?
Wasn't that the deal?
No, I was like confused why you were saying that. That's combinado.
Oh, okay. So the comboio.
I'll teach you the Portuguese sound that you do for children. Pouca terra, poo, poo.
Train. I have to take the train. Oh,
like don't make me do it again.
Oh, comboio. Okay, of course. That is train, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Por qué? Por qué?
Okay. No, that's good, but I want to know like how you're going.
Okay. So como é que apanhas? Apanhar. So
or how do you go to Porto?
Viajar?
Just the verb to go.
To go ir.
But conjugated.
Vais.
If you're being informal.
Yes, I am. Como é que vais a casa? Home, em casa?
Bloody prepositions, I know. I was just still thinking of Porto, but if you want to say
okay.
home.
No, we can say a Porto.
Like this? Ao Porto. And it's special Porto because, so always question mark, because Porto, well, first is masculine, so you corrected that and said ao instead of a. You say because we're assuming the person is going there but not staying very long. That's why you need, again, the preposition e. And Porto is so with city names, normally we don't need the definite article, but with Porto we do. So that's why we say ao Porto. Otherwise, if it was Lisbon, then we say como é que vais a Lisboa?
Oh, vais ao Porto.
Yeah. But what if he was going home? So like you were saying, como é que vais?
Vais a casa?
Okay, but normally you go home and you stay there at least the night.
Right. Para casa.
Vais para casa. Para casa. Okay, last one. Última. Quero a saia preta com buracos. Reaction.
Claro. Sério? But buracos, I don't know. Saia, I know. Preta, I know. But buracos?
Oh, you do know. You just don't remember. And you need, probably it's not within the 20, you haven't heard it 21 times yet, or whatever research says. Remember in the
Oh,
program?
holes, I do. The holes. Oh my God, you love the holes. Yes.
Yes.
A sério.
Sério. Or claro is also a possible reaction.
Of course, sure you do. You're okay. So are you asking me what do you want?
Which skirt? You have an option for skirts.
Okay. Okay, so qual saia? Qual saia queres? Queres? Queres?
This is perfect. Could we add something to make it more sound like a question?
Qual é? Qual é que saia queres?
Um,
Tu queres?
Qual saia
Uh-huh.
é que queres?
Ah, right.
But it's fine because I know that a month or two ago you were struggling with where to put what in the sentence, and now you said it was fine. It was just me being picky about that ek because I don't know.
That's good. Yeah,
I'm Portuguese and I like to hear it because then I know it's a question, and it's good for everyone to listen and pay attention every time you hear ek. Okay, question.
right.
Now we're going to do something else. Which we've done before with the same soap opera, Os Nossos Dias, which not everyone likes soap operas, and I understand they can be painful to watch, but they show, it's artificial, but they will show how we speak. So it's good practice. What we're going to do is we're going to watch a small scene, someone on the phone, so that actually gives time in between. We don't hear the other person, but we hear the person, the actor needs to make pauses, so that's good, gives us time to process. And before listening, we're just going to read the subtitles. So you have subtitles in English, but only for the lyrics in English. So handy, so handy. Okay, first sentence, I should have stopped each time. You understand here? Everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why we do this is also to make sure that, the pressure of knowing what is being said is off your plate. And second is to start seeing that, how would you pronounce this? So maybe in your head, you're already saying, how would you say this name, for example?
Teresa.
Okay.
Teresa.
Then hold that thought, and then in a few minutes, we'll see how she actually says it. Here, still okay what it means?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All good?
Yeah.
And then you have facial expressions. Do you know what the verb means?
Is that the beijinhos one? So past tense? Oh, how funny. Okay, I think I know.
Okay. And you know what this u means?
Him.
Uh-huh.
Is it? Uh-huh.
So it's a heterosexual kiss. Got that covered?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay. You good here?
Oh, yeah.
If not, you can leave Portugal. Come back where you came from. And this one?
Yes.
Okay. How do we say country?
País.
How would you read this?
País.
Boa. Okay. So what this posso comes from the verb poder, and what's the meaning of the verb poder here?
Cannot, or not possible, may not.
Is it not available?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's working. Doesn't look like it, but she is. And here?
Yes. Yes.
And notice that, that when we have possessive pronouns, so tua, your house, normally we need the definite article. So u, as, us before. With casa, it's a special case that we don't need it. Don't use it. And here?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the end of the conversation. So let's go back.
Oh, that's a good conversation.
Yeah, so simple. So in terms of, let's say, reading comprehension, you did really well. Not that I double checked, but I think I trust that was okay. And I need to share sound. There we go.
They can be, and they won't lie.
It's too loud for me.
When you're kissing me.
Sim, Teresa.
Sim, Teresa. So she says Teresa.
Of course. One of those drop D's. Of course.
Teresa, o que é que se passa?
So how did she say it? She didn't.
She said they said kek.
Which is what?
O kek.
So o que é que. And that shows, it's proof that I am right, that adding é que makes the question more of a question. So she probably had a script, which when saying naturally, because I don't know, she probably doesn't have it right in front of her, she fluctuates a bit from the script. So you see that in these kind of captions. O que é que se passa?
Tu o quê?
Tu quê?
Yeah, so the importance of the accents, right? Because otherwise the ni at the end of a word will just be que, but here, tu que.
Tu beijaste-o, Teresa?
Can you repeat it?
Tu beijaste-o, Teresa.
Beijaste-o.
Beijaste-o.
And where's the queen here? So the stress syllable.
Ash.
Beijaste.
Yeah.
Beijaste-o. And that's why you don't hear the oo almost. Beijaste-o. But some people will have difficulty in hearing these little pronouns that we add with a hyphen. And that's because they're not the center of attention in the word, but they're still important for the meaning. Because beijaste, maybe then if it was a woman kissing a woman, you would have heard a bit more.
Mas sabes que eu já não quero nada contigo.
Oh, and this is like, go away, Portuguese.
She sped up.
She sped up. Mas eu já não quero nada contigo. But actually, she added a word there. Let's see if you can hear it. I'll go
Okay.
back.
O quê? Tu beijaste-o, Teresa? Mas sabes que eu já não quero nada contigo.
Something, is it between the il and ja?
It's before the ill.
Okay. I heard it
I have,
almost.
we have to hear the same thing again, but
O quê? Tu beijaste-o, Teresa? Mas sabes que eu já não quero nada contigo.
Yeah, that's so fast. I managed to do that.
okay. So speed does matter. Mas sabes. Mas sabes. Sabes.
Oh, mas sabes, you know.
So, mas sabes. So you have a sh and then a s. So mas sabes.
Mas sabes.
So no, it's the other way around. So mesh
sabes. But you know.
But you know, he doesn't want anything with you anymore. Já não quer nada contigo. Okay. Off we go.
Oh, meu Deus.
She added an O. Come on.
Oh, right.
Oh my God.
E os teus pais ainda não chegaram?
E os teus pais ainda não chegaram?
His parents are not coming?
Still haven't arrived. And how do you pronounce this verb?
Chegaram.
So the queen is where?
Gar.
And that's why the nasal sound here, the M will make the A nasal, it's not chegarão, otherwise it's future tense. We're talking in the past tense, so it's important to focus here. Os teus pais ainda não chegaram?
Okay.
Eu não posso. Quer dizer, agora eu não posso ir para aí, mas eu...
So eu não posso ir para aí. Não posso ir para aí. So that we don't say para aí, we say para aí.
And then E is there? I know it's one of those live chat discussions.
Yeah, aí means, if I'm saying aí, I mean close to you, where you are.
Right.
And then how would you pronounce this one? How would you say this one?
Mas quando sair, passo a tua casa.
Mhm. And here, remember the O becomes
Passo.
more of a U and goes,
Passo.
vanishes a bit, but then you have a vowel afterwards. So you can actually, which is a nasal vowel because of the M, it could be passem tua casa.
Passei tua casa, ok.
Eu canto sair e eu passo em tua casa, ok? Pronto, vá lá. Vá lá, beijinhos.
Do you want to watch it one more time without the subtitles?
Sure, let's do that.
See if you can hear everything. She doesn't say até logo.
Hello. Wow, she dropped a lot.
But that's why seeing first, like reading, and I mean, you can, depending on what you want to focus on, but first reading and making sure, okay, I understand what I'm reading, what I'm going to hear, and then seeing the difference between what the sounds, the way she actually speaks is key. So one more listening exercise, is that okay? Now without subtitles. So this one doesn't have subtitles. We don't have that at our disposal. But it is good to test ourselves sometimes without having that. I know I would have understood Harry Potter when I watched the last one in England, obviously without subtitles at the movies, had I not had my exposure to English always with subtitles in Portuguese. That trained my brain for checking translations, but not for just listening. So we're going to watch this just 5 minutes of this interview. The interviewer speaks very clearly, and the woman is an old woman, barely has any teeth. She lives in a village in the north of Portugal, close to Castelo Branco and close to the border with Spain. So she's talking about her time there. And the very beginning is, oh, I should be okay for you to understand. Then she goes in talking in the past tense, which may still be difficult, but we'll just play it, and I won't stop there. Just make sure you get used to the way she speaks. And then at some point I'll stop more often, because then she's talking in the present tense, and that's interesting, and I think more easier vocabulary. So let's go.
Josefina, este seu quintal é tão bonito.
Sinto-me aqui muito bem e muito feliz.
Okay. Quintal, do you know what it means?
No.
Garden.
Ah.
Yeah, so we have the word jardim, which I think you know. And quintal usually is like the backyard. I think we could equate to that. There may be like a better definition for it. Maybe it's one that you have some fruit trees or whatnot. For me, it's like a small garden, but that's not an official definition. And did you get what she said, how she feels there?
I heard, very beautiful. I was actually listening to the music as well, because it's so, we hear that music all the time on this stuff. Very Portuguese, see?
Josefina, este seu quintal é tão bonito.
Sinto-me aqui muito bem e muito feliz.
Muito bem, muito feliz.
Eu nasci em Penha Garcia, nesta terra, cresci aqui, joguei as pedrinhas, saltei à corda, joguei ao ringue, fiz tudo e mais alguma coisa, foi uma infância muito feliz. Só quando casei, aos 18 anos, é que fui viver para Lisboa. Em Lisboa tive 54 anos.
54?
54 anos.
So what's this number they mentioned?
50, I mean 50, 50 something years. I missed that last one.
54.
What was it? 54 years.
And what was 54 years?
She lived in Lisbon.
Anos. O meu marido não gostava muito de vir, que ele era lisboeta. mas eu ficou-me sempre o bichinho de um dia poder vir para Penha Garcia. Por herança, fiquei com a casa que era dos meus pais. Este espaço onde eu estou, quando enviuvei, resolvi vir para Penha Garcia. Mas não vim logo de repente, porque tenho 2 filhas, tenho netos. Fui-me habituando a vir um mês.
Does you have children?
I heard us, yes, and grandchildren?
And did you pick up how many children?
No,
2 filhas.
but I heard the plural.
That's good.
Ia 2 para Lisboa, vinha, ia. Portanto, aprendi a viver, sentar ao pé da família. E aprendi a viver com a nova Penha Garcia que encontrei, que não era a mesma. Como tenho este quintal, eu ouço logo os passarinhos de manhã. O acordar, ouço a vizinha do lado já a chamar o cão.
So she talks now, she's numbering a few things that she ouço de manhã. What is ouço? Ouço. Ouço de manhã.
Manhã is tomorrow.
Não, de manhã, in the morning.
De manhã,
Eu
okay.
vejo, eu cheiro, eu toco, eu ouço.
Heard. Here.
I'll put it back, because now it goes in the present tense, so now we should try to see how much we
E a
get.
que encontrei, que não era a mesma. Como tenho este quintal, eu ouço logo os passarinhos de manhã.
Eu ouço logo os passarinhos de manhã. What is passarinhos?
Passarinhos. Can you say it one more time?
Passarinhos.
Passarinhos. Isn't her name Passarina?
No, Josefina. Oh, it rhymes almost.
Okay.
So pássaro is the word, and then normally we use the diminutive and talk passarinho. So, but pássaro,
Was it a
passarinho.
bird?
And
Really?
she said, ouço logo os passarinhos de manhã.
So something about the birds in the morning, right? Logo.
So she
later.
hears, ouço, quando acordo, ouço logo os passarinhos de manhã.
So it's that logo that's throwing me off, because that's like later, right?
Yeah, but it could, in this case, it's right away.
Oh, okay.
It's like first thing in the morning when I wake up, I hear ouço logo.
Oh,
I know,
right?
that was a tricky one.
Yeah. See?
Okay.
O acordar, ouço a vizinha do lado já a chamar o cão.
Ouço a vizinha do lado já a chamar o cão. What else
Call
does
the
she hear?
dog. Call the
No.
dog. No,
Ouço a vizinha do lado a chamar o cão.
my neighbor or the next door neighbor, right? Alado.
A chamar o cão.
A chamada a cão. So isn't that to call the dog?
So calling the dog.
Calling the
A
dog.
chamar. Calling.
Okay.
Quer dizer, eu vivo em Lisboa, tenho casa lá, mas acho que sentia solidão, estando em Lisboa.
Does she have a house in Lisbon?
Wasn't it past tense?
No, tenho casa. Tenho casa lá.
La.
Far away.
Had a house there. Okay. Or have.
And what did she feel in Lisbon? Did you pick up the word?
No, but we can listen again.
Let's do that.
A vizinha do lado já a chamar o cão. Quer dizer, eu vivo em Lisboa, tenho casa lá, mas acho que sentia solidão, estando em Lisboa.
Dia, vigidão, something like that.
Solidão.
Solidão. Don't know this word.
Solitude. Meaning
Of course. Okay.
without lonely.
Oh.
And she said, tenho casa lá. So present tense.
Aqui não há solidão. Quem queira vir, não digo só para Penha Garcia, há algumas aldeias, mas Penha Garcia ainda é uma aldeia em que não há solidão. Porque
Quantas pessoas vivem em Penha Garcia hoje?
700, 800.
Ainda é muita gente para o que se passa no interior, não é?
How many people are there in Penha Garcia where she lives?
I heard set, maybe I heard something about set.
Okay, and you know it's a village, so set and then how many zeros?
Nove, so maybe 79.
No, there's more.
Oh, there's more. Okay.
700, 800.
Oh,
700, 800.
700. Oh, there's 100. Okay, 700.
700, 800. Okay. I think anyway, I think that was really good. That was a really good check of how you are after 6 and a bit months with the Language Unschool. But how does it feel for you? Like, how does your Portuguese feel on your daily life? Because you're the one needing to use it.
In my daily life, it's basically simple stuff, maybe a handyman coming in or whatever. Like I said, I know I butcher the language, but I get my point across, and I usually understand whatever the person is saying, at least enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have, for only 6 months of study, I have, a good level of comfort, I think. But everything is just very simple, simple sentences. Yeah.
But from my impression is that you manage to do your daily things in a comfortable way, like confident way. You don't stress too much about it. Of course, it's still not at a level you can just like, hey, I'm good. Not like you probably have with Mandarin. And I think it's important to know that you haven't been studying like, let's say, not someone normal. That's not what I want to say.
I haven't been focused on studying. No, I haven't.
However, you have been participating in the live chats and stuff, and using as much Portuguese as you can, and it shows. So it's always the question of what if you had been studying so many hours a day or whatever, where you would be. But that is sort of a pointless question because this is what you commit to do. And I think that's sometimes it's more important to do how much you can, but being consistent.
But what I also feel is if I were spending as much time studying by myself or studying a book that I spend in the live chat, I would not be where I am right now. It's the live chats for me, because I recognize so many things that are from the live chats.
Yeah, and that shows how people learn in a different way, right? Because for you, I think because you're an auditory learner, for you, it's enough to hear it in context and with a silly example that I can use, like Mr. Bean or so, and it's enough for you to remember next time. Sure, you will need repetition, like buracos. We've talked enough about holes. Don't ask. But I just give you a little nudge, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember now.
Right.
So yeah. Samantha, can you just tell us briefly how much exposure you have had to Portuguese before we started working together?
Yeah. I've been living in Portugal for about 1.5 years. And the first year I did have about, I don't know, probably like maybe 10 lessons with a teacher. But I really didn't like the style and I really wasn't learning. And so I just stopped.
But still in the 1.5 years, you were paying attention to how people were speaking and stuff, right? Because I mean, it's easy to just turn off when you're not interested.
I didn't really have that option because I lived in a place where it really wasn't that. I mean, I could always eventually find somebody to help me, somebody who could speak English that would help me, right? But so I really kind of just had to, look things up on Google Translate or whatever and just try my best.
Samantha, can you tell a little bit about this period you had like 3 months ago where you felt quite desperate and you actually scared me because out of the blue you just said, I feel like I'm not making progress. I'm actually going backwards. Like, no. But a lot of people go through that, but it sounds like the intermediate plateau, which is something you get when you're intermediate learner, so not at your level. But then you pulled it through. Can you tell how it felt and what you did at the time?
I call it my esoteric crisis there, or existential crisis. It's just like suddenly there was so much in my head that nothing would come out. And whatever was in my head was jumbled and I couldn't access it, right? And so it felt horrible. It felt terrible. But so I felt like I could speak less and understand less at that moment than I did before. So what I did was, I'm here. I've got to learn how to speak the language. I don't really have a choice. So I just kept going, just kept doing exactly what I was doing. Go to the live chats, go to the live chats, occasionally, read a flyer or read something that comes your way, and just trusted the process.
And that was beautiful, because I think most people would have just given up, and you just kept doing what you were doing without pushing yourself too hard. And it was even during a period that we were doing like this intensive course beginning of the year, which was quite intense, and still, maybe that was the reason why it caused the sort of
the meltdown. I think so.
But that's interesting, because sometimes with language learning, when you reach a level and then you have to take a step back. I know it sounds weird, but it's almost as if there's, in the process of giving birth, there's one term called crowning. I don't know if you know it. So the baby's coming out, so you can even feel the baby's head, and then okay, it's almost done. But then the baby goes further in before it comes fully out. And that's almost like the same thing with language learning. You had to go, you were almost coming out, right? Your Portuguese was there, you knew a lot, and then you're like, okay, I'm not ready. I need to go, like, take a deep breath, go back in, get myself together, and then it came out, and it did. So I'm really happy you persevered.
Well, again, having the support, your support was always there. Right. So I knew I wasn't just floundering by myself. There was a support system, and the WhatsApp, that community, that helped a lot too.
Samantha, I'm so glad you put yourself through this publicly. I know it's not easy, and it wasn't perfect, which is not meant to be. So
it was normal.
No, I know. And some things I know, but you didn't remember now, and that's fine. We're just showing how it is, the reality of 6 months of Portuguese, European Portuguese, what that can look like. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in a live chat next week, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Adeus, Samantha. Beijinhos.
Adeus.